Confused about sunscreen? What actually is UVA, UVB, broad spectrum, SPF? Some people say it causes cancer. And is mineral sunscreen better or chemical? Is there enough SPF in your makeup? And what about vitamin D? Does it completely block your vitamin D? Sunscreen is a $10 billion business. So who to believe? Let's find out.
So the sun causes UV radiation to our skin, damaging the DNA, and also destroys collagen, which, you're anything like me and getting on a little bit, you want to try and get as much collagen as you can. So what does UVA, UVB mean? Well, in very simple terms, UVA means is like the aging, how it affects us in terms of our wrinkles and dark spots, and the UVB is the burning. So the SPF is the sun protection factor, and the higher the sun protection factor, the more it prevents you from those UVB rays. But actually there's not much difference between once you get to 30 and 50. So SPF 30 prevents about 97% of that UV radiation getting through to your skin. And once you get to SPF 50, is about 98% prevents you getting through. Once you get above that, there's really not much point. So what actually is a tan? Why do we even get a tan? Interestingly, the melanin, which is like the brown pigment of the skin, comes out more when you get a tan. And this is actually the body's response to that UV radiation. It's the body going, hang on a minute, there's some damage going on, let's protect ourselves, because the more melanin you've got, the less likely you are to burn from those UVB rays. So in a way, we kind of think of a tan as like a really healthy glow and things like that. But actually, if you think about it, it's the body going, oh my gosh, we're getting DNA damage, let's protect ourselves. Okay, so there's different types of sunscreen. So there's chemical sunscreen. Now this absorbs the UV radiation from the sun, a bit like a sponge, and then just releases it harmlessly in the form of heat. And chemical sunscreens include things like oxybenzone. So the pros to a chemical sunscreen. Well, they tend to absorb really easily. They don't leave that kind of white residue on your skin, so they're really useful for kind of under makeup and everyday wear. The cons to a chemical sunscreen? Well, some people have sensitive skin and may react to some of the chemicals. And also you've got to put it on 20 minutes before you hit the sunshine. And then you've got your mineral sunscreens. These actually work like a physical barrier blocking that UV radiation. They often contain things like zinc oxide and titanium dioxide. And the plus points to this is that it's really good for sensitive skin and actually acne prone skin, because the zinc in it can be quite good for that. On the downsides, it can often leave a bit of a white residue and be quite hard to kind of rub in, so not so good for everyday use, but it does work immediately. So does sunscreen cause cancer? You might have seen this on social media, there's people suggesting it does, but actually there is no good human evidence that sunscreen causes cancer. What we do know is that the sun can cause cancer. And we know that the sunscreens are very carefully checked in like USA by the FDA, and we've got the European Commission in Europe. So it's not something I think you need to worry about. But if you are concerned, you can always just choose the mineral sunscreens rather than the chemical. So what about vitamin D absorption? If we use too much sunscreen, is it true that we're not going to get enough vitamin D? It's actually very unlikely that you're going to be using enough sunscreen to block the vitamin D you need. It is true that in darker months, or if you live somewhere where there isn't much sunshine, you do need to make sure you're getting enough vitamin D. So for example, I always go for a little walk at lunchtime, but even in the winter months, I still use SPF on my face and on my hands, because even among cloud, you can still get those UVB rays coming through. So essentially, it's very unlikely that the sunscreen you're using is going to prevent the vitamin D absorption that you need. But if you're worried, then just take some supplements. What about SPF that you've already got in your makeup or your moisturiser? Now, a lot of friends ask me this. They say, well, I have got a foundation that's got SPF in, so I don't think I need to wear it. Bad news, team. I'm afraid you need absolutely shed loads of it to make a difference. And the SPF is often really low. So let me show you how much you actually need to put on just your face and your neck. You need 2 fingers full, roughly about that much. And there's no way that's how much foundation you're putting on, is it? Okay, there are a few things I suggest you do avoid with sunscreen. First of all, the once daily sunscreens. I think that's a bit dodgy. There's probably not much evidence. Realistically, you need to be reapplying every 2 hours if you're out in the sunshine. The sprays, I know they can be useful for kids, but the evidence shows a lot of it goes off in the wind. And if you inhale it, it can be quite dangerous for the lungs. Also check the expiration dates. They do expire, especially if they're kept not in the correct conditions, like in a warm car. Also waterproof. There's no such thing as waterproof sun cream. You can get water resistant, but again, you should be reapplying when you get out of the water. And finally, homemade sunscreen. I would suggest you try and avoid this because there's not good evidence it's going to have the same impact. All right, in conclusion, I would recommend you make sure you choose a broad spectrum SPF and use at least a 30 or a 50. And reapply every couple of hours. Don't rely on the SPF in your moisturiser or your makeup. And if you think you need to spend a lot of money on your sunscreen, then you might be surprised. I'm going to do a short showing you my favourite brand recommendations to try for sunscreen. Hope that helps.
I am Dr. Sophie. Please engage in the comments. I'd love to know what you think. Check out my other channel as well, Dr. Sophie GP, and I'll see you on my next video.